Before we begin, let's take a few moments to worship the Supreme One, the infinitely compassionate One, the undefeated One, the Supreme Buddha. To do this, can you all be upstanding and recite Namaskar with me? Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Okay, you may now all be seated. Before we inaugurate, let's take a few moments to make a firm determination. May the qualities of the great Arhats, whose every footstep were a blessing to the earth, may these great qualities be part of me. May I achieve these qualities. May I be like the great Arhats, and may I attain the supreme bliss Nibbana. And also, let's not forget that among this infinite journey in samsara, we've not always been good people. We may have fallen in hands of bad and woeful friends, and therefore we may have done bad things to the Sotapannas, all the way to the Pacceka Buddhas and Arhat Buddhas, and Samma Sambuddhas. Knowing what we did to them, all the wrong we did to them was wrong. Knowing that, we humbly ask for their forgiveness. And may we be forgiven. Okay. Having made the determination, let us begin. So, you've probably heard many stories now about people striving to become arhats and becoming arhats. But have you heard of a story about a whale that completed its journey? No? Okay then. Today we'll be talking about a whale and his journey to Nibbana. And his journey started only 2,500 years ago, back at the time of the Lord Buddha Gautama. You see, at the time of the Buddha Gautama, there were some businessmen, some merchants. So a group of them decided to get together, a group of 500, decided to get together and make a deal. They decided to collect as many valuable items as they possibly can, and within the next month, they'll leave the country, go abroad, and sell the items. And their plans were to come back as a billionaire, each and every one of them, with enough money to spend like water. Each of them having this dream in their hearts, they decided that they wanted to go. Soon the day came for them to leave their loved ones behind, their wives, their mothers, their fathers, their sons, their daughters, their relatives, their friends, all behind, and go to this new island, or this new country, and start a business there and collect money and come back. The time came. So these merchants, businessmen, traders, they made their way to the harbor and started to ready their boats. You see, going by boats wasn't always a safe way to travel, because the sea is unpredictable. So when these 500 men got onto their boats and started to ready the boat, filling it with food, filling it with possessions, filling it with the treasures that they'll trade abroad, all of them started to become a bit seasick, homesick, because stories about men going abroad, never coming back, drowning, ships capsizing, storms, animals, beasts, hearing all these stories, most of them were scared. And they're reluctant to ready their boats. They're reluctant to get on the boat. And so that day, most of these 500 men stepped off their boat and back onto the harbor. You see, in the evening, the captain saw this. The captain of the fleet saw each of his men, each of his sailors as well. His sailors, these merchants, these traders, the servants, all of them had stepped off their boat. And so he decided to go on the biggest ship he can possibly find. Stood on the edge and shouted, "Men, merchants, businessmen, sailors, we are going to a new country. We are going abroad for business." You see, the sea is beautiful. Imagine it. On the boat, no one to disturb you, slowly bobbing up and down with the waves, the sun shining, the blue waters, the amount of laughter, the fun you'll have sailing. And let's not forget, once you're on the island, once you've traded all your items, you'll come home to your wives, home to your sons and daughters, home to your parents, with money, enough money to buy them big houses, to buy them gifts only the royal can have. You go as businessmen, you go as traders, you go as merchants, you go as sailors, but you'll come back as millionaires. You'll come back as billionaires. So, let's all come together, let's go. And this captain gave a motivational speech to all of his crew. Hearing this, every single one of them said, "Yes, I want that. I want to be rich. I want to be on that boat." And so everyone in earshot of this speech, whether they were, some of them may not have been sailors, may not have been traders, may not have been merchants, but they got on the boat with the promise that they'll come back rich, with the promise of a good time. You see, so many people got onto the fleet that the boats were too heavy. So heavy, in fact, that they couldn't move. So the captain again gathered his crew and announced, "But unfortunately, a bit of news I forgot to tell all of you. The sea is also a place of danger. The sea is unpredictable. Once you go out to sea, you're vulnerable. There are storms, great storms, that will capsize your boats. You can drown, and who knows what will happen once you go onto this new land, the new island. Who knows?" And there have been recent sightings of whales, great, colossal whales, who, if hungry, can swallow your boat whole. So he gave a speech about the dangers of the sea. Hearing this, some of them were discouraged. So the boats were now balanced with the right amount of crew on each boat of the fleet. And so they went abroad. They sailed the seas for months. They went to this unknown island and started to trade what they had, and in return received great things. They received spices that they've never knew ever existed. They found mines and mines of gold. They found gems, sackfuls of gems, expensive cloths. To be honest, they hit jackpot. Each and every one of them. Each and every one of the 500 hit jackpot. Soon, after a few months, all their trading items were all gone. And in its place was filled with jewels, filled with gems, gold, spices, sugar, salts, seasonings, and each of them ready to come home. So again, the 500 boarded their boats. The fleet made its way back to its homeland. Unfortunately, their trip wasn't as safe as they expected. You see, along the way, they got caught in a storm. Fortunately, the storm wasn't big. None of them were capsized, but it did something worse. It instilled fear into their hearts. Soon, as they were coming closer to their homes, lurking under the water was a whale, a colossal whale. Sailors described it as a whale that when he opens its mouth, it can swallow even the biggest boat whole. So the fleets of boats got together, and circling them was this massive whale. Each of them was scared. Each of them were frightened. They're not going to see their loved ones ever again. If this whale just bumps into one of the ships, the ship will capsize, losing all of its treasures, and maybe losing a life or two. So each and every one of them was frightened, didn't know what to do. But one of them, one merchant, was very religious. He sent messages to every single boat saying, let's all shout Namo Buddhaya, or praise to the awakened one, together. And so they had nothing else. Their weapons were harmless against this well. Its skin was so thick that no spear, no arrow could pierce through it. This was the last resort. So each of them, on top of their lungs, shouted, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya. The well, hearing this, disappeared. He dived underwater, and the sailors never saw that well again. And so these merchants and traders and businessmen safely went home, fortunately. And so they filled their carts, horses and carriages, and all these means of travels with all their items, and brought them all home. But you see, there was a tradition that once you achieve something, once you get something, once you earn something, so to them it would be the items, right? They'll separate the first and the best, the foremost part, to their religions. So they separated the most expensive gems to all the rest, thinking that the next day they'll give it to their teachers. And so the next day, they woke up early, dressed in white clothes, they had the gems with them, and they took it to their teacher. They came all the way to Savatthi to give it to the Buddha. So imagine, right? 500 men carrying gems, expensive gems, gems that their whole city hasn't seen before, and they're ready to offer it to the Buddha. So they come with a very peaceful heart. They show these gems to the Buddha and said, Venerable Sir, for the last few months, for the last 6 months, we were at this new country, this new island, and we collected all these special items. We'd like to give the first and foremost part to you, Venerable Sir. The Buddha replied saying, merchants, businessmen, traders, what you have brought to us is absolutely useless. Now imagine how shocked these people were, right? They spent 6 months and the Buddha is saying that the gems that they found are useless, that they have no value. He continues saying, give them to your mothers, your wives, your daughters. Give it to your family. They are useless to us. Now you can imagine these men go on to their knees and said, please, Venerable Sir, please accept our offering. The Buddha replied saying, you see, we don't accept these because we have something more valuable than these gems. We have gems that are extremely valuable, extremely rare. And obviously you all know that he's talking about the noble triple gem. The triple gems that are so rare. They're called the noble triple gems. And he continued saying, men, if you want the gems, these extremely valuable gems that will surpass the value of the gems that you're holding any day, if you want them, give all your items to your family, to your parents, to your mothers, fathers, your family, and come to us, and I'll give you the gem. Now these sailors were surprised. They spent 6 months in a foreign country trading, and there's a gem that the Buddha had, or there are gems that the Buddha had, that he had that is incomparable to the gems that they had to scour in foreign country for. Hearing that, they all went home and gave everything. All their 6 months of hard work, of trading, of negotiating, and of all this stuff, they gave all that away. Why? Because they are searching for the thing with most value. And if the Buddha said that he had something that had more value, they wanted it. So the next day, all 500 of them went straight to the Buddha, saying, Venerable Sir, we're ready. We have given all our items away. Where are these valuable gems? Where are they? And the Buddha said, okay, if you want these gems, you have to first ordain. So guess what they did? Of course, they ordained. The Buddha gave them the first gem. He preached the Dharma. After having preached the Dharma, they had the second gem. What's that? The association with Mahasangha. And you could say the third gem as well, because they had the association with the Buddha as well. But within no time at all 500 monks received the third gem, third and final gem. They became arahats. Each and every one of the 500 became arahats. Some monks in the monastery were confused. These monks weren't ordained for long, maybe a month, 2, maybe a year, but they have attained arahathood. How is that possible? So they went to the Buddha. Venerable Sir, remember these monks? Remember those businessmen, those merchants, those sailors, those 500 people? They've all become arahats. Why did that happen, Buddha? You see, the Buddha replied saying, you see, monks, at the time of the Buddha Kashyapa, these merchants, these men were young monks. And these monks, unfortunately, weren't able to understand the Dharma. But they tried to fulfill their path. They fulfilled the sasana, the ministry. They observed the 10 precepts. They observed the 10 precepts and protected it second to life. When they became upasampada, when they became higher ordained, they protected those as well, those rules as well, making sure they didn't break any of them. But not only that, they helped each other. They helped anyone who needed help. They helped selflessly, whether it was monks, whether it was nuns, whether it was lay people, whether it was people from other religions. It didn't matter. They helped each and every one of them. They helped extinguish the fires. They may not have a full understanding of the Dharma. None of them were Sotapannas, stream enterers, but they stopped others from doing bad things. They promoted, they praised good things, good deeds, telling others to do more and more good deeds. But they were together. They were the Mahasangha. They were united and respecting each other. They respected each other. They respected the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha. They respected monks older than them. They respected monks younger than them. That's why they became arahant. Now think about this, right? The things that the Buddha had said, that were the reasons why they became arahants. How many of those can't you do? Can't you protect your precepts? They protected 10. You only have 5. They helped each other selflessly, not caring about what happened to them. They preached to others the quality of doing good, the good, and they rejected the bad. They told others not to do bad. They respected each other. They respected the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha. How many of that can't you do? Even though they didn't understand the Dharma, they tried. They tried extremely hard. You see, even if you died, your merits won't disappear. They will help you attain Nibbana in one of your next lives. As even though their journey of practicing the path may be fruitless in their past lives, but it's because of that they will attain their liberation in their last lives. Right? So the Buddha continues saying, but on their journey back, the sailors, the merchants, they met a whale. This colossal whale was extremely hungry. That this whale was planning to swallow a boat to feed itself. But before it could have done anything, it heard the word Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya. Praise to the awakened one. Hearing that, he couldn't do anything. He knew he couldn't do anything. So he dived down very deep, and this whale died of starvation. Just hearing the words Namo Buddhaya, the whale stopped himself from swallowing up this boat, and dived down very deep and died of starvation. The body of the whale was washed up at a shore nearby. Seagulls, vultures, animals are now eating its flesh, leaving behind its massive skeleton. But the whale was reborn in a womb of a Brahmin's wife. You see, this Brahmin's wife, the moment the whale had entered her womb, she started to feel something, almost like a fire inside of her, inside of her stomach. She had become a bit hungry. And so, it was a time of day that normally people don't take meals. Like the Brahmin's wife, the Brahminess, usually didn't take a meal then, but she was hungry, so she went to her husband and said, my husband, I feel hungry, can I get something to eat? The husband said, okay, eat whatever you want. And so she went to the kitchen, found some food, started eating. You know, when you sit in front of the TV with a tub of ice cream or a packet of crisps or chips or like a biscuit packet, you know how you don't even notice and all the food had disappeared? Just like that, the Brahmin's wife was eating and eating and eating. And before she knew it, everything, all the food in the kitchen had disappeared. She had eaten it all. But yet, the more she ate, the more hungry she got. Okay, so this Brahmin was a bit surprised, a bit scared. But soon, relatives, having heard that she was pregnant, that the Brahminess was pregnant, started to come to their house, bringing them gifts of food and anything that they needed. If ever they bought food, the Brahminess would eat it, but yet still wouldn't be filled. Wasn't satisfied. The hunger was still burning inside of her. And she didn't just have 1 or 2 relatives. She had hundreds from all over the country. And yet, she was never filled. She was never satisfied. Now the Brahmin was a bit worried. She's eating and eating and eating. And she's still hungry. She could still eat more. What is the problem? So they decided to go to the doctors. So the doctor took a look at her, gave her a checkup. She looks fine. There's nothing wrong with her. The Brahmin thought, there's nothing wrong with her? That can't be. I went to another doctor. The doctor said the exact same thing again. There's nothing wrong with her. She's fine. She's perfectly healthy. He went doctor to doctor to doctor. Nothing. He went to doctors that dealt with spiritual sides, dealt with spirits, thinking that she may be possessed by an unseen spirit. But yet, they said that she was normal, that she was healthy. There's nothing wrong with her. And this Brahmin wasn't rich either. The Brahmin had to work hard for food. And so the Brahmin spent late nights earning money for food for his wife. You see, 10 months passed. 10 months of hardship, of this hunger, this burning hunger. The mother bore all of that and gave birth to a baby boy. You see, the moment the baby came out of the mother, it opened its mouth for its first time, took a deep breath, and started crying. Crying and crying and crying and crying. You see, the moment the baby was out, the mother felt something weird. Not only was there an absence of weight, but there's something else so missing as well. And then she realized her hunger had disappeared. The burning hunger had also disappeared. Having told the great news to her husband was so happy. He would make her and give her anything she wanted. But no matter what the mother and father did, the baby kept crying. You see, when the baby got breastfed, it would drink and drink and drink and drink until there's none left. You see, mothers from all over the town, all over the city would come. Why? To give some milk to this baby. And this baby would drink and drink and drink and drink until even the mothers from all over the city was not enough. You see, the father didn't know what to do. Normally babies would be filled after drinking milk from his own mother. But his child, his baby, had drunk milk from every single mother in the entire town, but still wasn't filled. Still was crying. And so he even bought a she-goat and would feed the baby milk from that as well. But yet, the baby kept on crying. From the moment it opened its mouth, it kept on crying. You see, no matter what happened, no matter how much money or how little money this Brahmin and Brahminess had, they had one good habit. They would give dana, give alms to the Mahasangha often. So monks and nuns would come into their house, accept alms, and even preach the Dharma. You see, one day, a monk comes into the house for alms, and the moment this small baby saw this monk, it changed. The baby was silent. The moment the monk started to preach the Dharma, it was almost like this baby was listening. The baby probably couldn't understand, but it looked like it was listening to the Dharma. It had stopped crying. You can imagine that this mother and father had sleepless nights because this baby kept on crying. Right? The moment this baby was asleep, it was sort of like heaven to the mother and father. But the moment the monk entered, the moment the Mahasangha entered the house, the baby was quiet. And because he loved the Dharma, or he had a liking to the Dharma, they called him Dhammaruchi. Dhamma is in the Dharma, right? And Ruchi means liking. A couple of years went by, but this baby may have turned into a child, but yet his hunger was no different, maybe increased. So when this child could do things for himself, the father had to talk with the child. Took him aside and said, Dhammaruchi, child, my son, we know you're hungry. We know you want food. You know, I have to work very hard to find some money. And with the money, we spend most of it on food. But that's not enough for you. Look at the clothes you're wearing. I can't buy you new clothes because we're spending too much money with food. And I want you to be full. I want you to be happy and satisfied. So take this plate and go house to house and ask for some food. And do you think the father was happy saying that? I would imagine the father was in tears. The Brahmin was in tears. That was his last resort, sending his son off to beg for food. So, early next morning, the child took the plate and went out to beg for food. He went to the first house. We're talking about a child no older than 7. You can imagine. Not very old. Imagine a 7-year-old coming to your house, begging for food. They probably gave him a very good meal, a hearty meal. But this child, Dhammaruchi, would scoff it all down, but yet was hungry. He went to the next door. Again, got fed. Next one, fed. fed, door after door after door after door, having food from every single house. Soon he went through the entire town. And yet, when he came back home, late at night, he would still go into the kitchen, rummage through the fridge, and eat everything that's in the kitchen. Soon, when an age came when Dhammaruchi couldn't understand what he was doing was a burden to others, was an extreme burden to his mother, his father, and was a burden to his neighbors, it was a burden to his friends, it was a burden to every single one of them. He understood that he was a pain in everyone's life, and he had to live with this hunger, this fire in his stomach, this unsatisfiable hunger. You see, you imagine when he came to around the age 15, 16, he thought, me being alive means a lot of people are suffering, that I have to suffer as well, that I have to go through all this suffering. My mother, my father have to work extremely hard because of me. My friends, my relatives, my teachers, just because of my hunger. I can't stand it anymore. I'm going to end my life. And so thoughts of suicide started to flow into his mind. These suicidal thoughts started to flow into his mind. Whether it was jumping into fire, drowning, drinking poison, the suicidal thoughts kept coming to him. Soon, his face started to droop. The color in his face, in his smile, started to disappear. Soon, it felt like he was permanently depressed. You see, one day he was outside, again begging for food, where he met a man, not just any man, an upasaka. So this man asked, "Child, why are you so sad? This is not a time to be sad. The Buddha and Dhamma Sangha are alive. Whatever problem you have, the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha has the solution to stop all suffering, every single suffering. All you have to do is ordain. That's it. And then the Mahasangha will take care of you. And anyway, you don't need to go begging for alms. You'll get alms. You'll get food. Don't worry." Hearing this, Dhammaruchi started to smile. There was another option. Suicide is not the only option. He could ordain. He could ordain and he can find a way to stop all suffering. And he'll be able to eat without being a burden to anyone. So he ran as fast as his legs could carry him all the way home. Now his parents were surprised to see him come home so early. And he bent down and worshipped both of them and said, "Mother, Father, please give me permission to ordain. I would like to join the Mahasangha. I would like to eradicate suffering, please." The mother and father were surprised but knew that this was the right thing to do. They wanted their child to ordain, so they gave their full consent. They gave the permission. And so Dhammaruchi went to the temple and ordained and became Venerable Dhammaruchi. You see, Dhammaruchi had a great teacher, a teacher who would teach him right from wrong. And Dhammaruchi loved his teacher, respected him with his full heart, and followed his teacher around, listened to every single word, and did exactly what was told. So it wasn't surprised that whenever his teacher got invited to go to alms, he would bring Dhammaruchi along as well. And so when they went to a house, Dhammaruchi would get a serving, and his teacher would give a part of his meal as well to Dhammaruchi. After consuming all that, Dhammaruchi was still hungry. The monks who also attained the alms giving would give a part of their alms as well. Dhammaruchi would consume all that, but still would be hungry. Soon, the devotees knew that Dhammaruchi still wanted more. Although Dhammaruchi didn't say he wanted more, they could sense that he wanted more, and so they decided to offer him some more. And so they offered him all the leftovers, and Dhammaruchi consumed all of that, but still was hungry. And after he went to that alms giving, after he went back to the monastery, the monks who went out begging for alms would give portions of their food to the Venerable Dhammaruchi. But yet it still wasn't enough. I want to take a small detour. You see, Dhammaruchi was this hungry because of what? Because in his previous lives, he was a whale. He was a whale. That's why he was this hungry. Now, we can infer that a whale is like Dhammaruchi, is always constantly hungry. Think about it. What can the whale eat That's enough for its own size. There's nothing as big as a whale. A whale has to constantly eat because it's constantly hungry. Think about how much suffering it's going through. So welcome to Sansara, where you can be whatever you want to be. Well, not whatever you want to be, whatever you be, right? But no matter how much Dhammaruchi consumed or how much he ate, his teacher respected him. He was a good student. He would respect his teachers. He would respect other monks. He had good manners. He never hurt anyone's feelings. He was helpful. He was selfless. He was humble. He was down to earth. He never put anyone down and made himself seem bigger and better and greater. He respected everyone. And so his teacher would give him a large portion of his alms. But yet, no matter how much the monks gave, it wasn't enough. You see, one day a man came to the monastery and invited all 500 monks to come to his house and accept his alms. And so they had no one else who had requested, and so they agreed, and all 500 of them went to almsgiving. They left one behind to do duties and responsibilities, religious responsibilities. So that day, they left Dhammaruchi, the Venerable Dhammaruchi, behind. Soon after, the 500 of them left, 500 monks left. A man came running into the monastery, panting, saying, "Venerable Sir, I have prepared alms for all of you, all 500 of you. Venerable Sir, where are all the monks?" Dhammaruchi replied saying, "Sir, the other monks have gone on alms, gone to receive alms. So who's in the temple? Who's in the monastery?" "Just me." You can imagine this man was very disappointed. He thought he was able to give alms to 500 people, but there's only one monk left. So with a sigh, he probably said, "Okay, can I offer some to you?" And so Dhammaruchi accepted it and said, "Okay." And so this man took the Venerable Dhammaruchi's alms bowl to the cart outside the monastery and filled it with a serving. Gave it to Dhammaruchi, and Dhammaruchi almost inhaled it. And when I mean inhaled it, I mean consumed it very quickly, almost like inhaling. The man, having seen this, thought this monk is probably pretty hungry, and took his alms bowl and served another serving and gave it back. Again, Dhammaruchi again ate all of it. Then serving number 3 came up, serving number 4, 5. Now this man was now scared. No one has 5 servings, 5 portions. That's impossible. This man was scared. Is this a person? Was this a monk? Or is it a demon or an evil spirit? And so he went back outside, took his cart, and gave the cart to the Venerable Dhammaruchi. Dhammaruchi scoffed all of it down. Everything. Well, apart from the cart itself, right? All the food prepared for 500, he consumed, he ate very quickly. And the man started screaming and shouting and ran out the monastery shouting, "There's a beast, there's a demon, there's a beast in the monastery, there's a beast in the monastery." He ran all the way. This man ran so far, so fast, that he almost bumped into the Buddha. Literally, almost. After seeing the Buddha, he worshipped and said, "Forgive me, Venerable Sir, but in your monastery, there's a beast. He had eaten 500 portions. He had eaten alms that were meant for 500 people. That is no human. Venerable Sir, it must be a beast. Please, Venerable Sir, save us all. Please, Venerable Sir, tell us, is it a man or a beast?" The Buddha replied saying, "Sir, that is no man. That is Venerable Dhammaruchi. And thanks to the food that you had offered him, that you have nourished him with. Through that, you should know that today, the Venerable Dhammaruchi will attain the supreme state of Arhathood, will become an Arhat." Having said that, the man was elated, full of happiness. He said, "Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu." Having not known that Dhammaruchi will become an Arhat today, after the food that he had offered him. And so the Buddha turned around and left. You see, when the Buddha came to the monastery, he went and confronted Venerable Dhammaruchi and asked him, Dhammaruchi, have you ever seen the sea before? Venerable said, no, I haven't. You see, Dhammaruchi was born in the middle of a town and he had ordained. He had never seen the sea. And so the Buddha replied saying, okay, Dhammaruchi, let's go on a trip to the sea. Let's go and see the sea. So the Buddha took Dhammaruchi to the sea. It's the first time Dhammaruchi saw the sea, and so he was amazed about the vast ocean, the vast sea. And so the Buddha took Dhammaruchi along the shore until they got to a certain spot. See, there, Dhammaruchi could see massive, white, arcing pillars. And it was almost like a building, a ruined building made out of some sort of white material. And then the Buddha pointed at it and said, Dhammaruchi, look at this carefully and tell me what it is and who it belongs to. So he was pointing something on the ground, something white, a structure of a building. What is it? Or who is it? Dhammaruchi had no clue whatsoever, but went round this massive, whatever it is, touching it, trying to make out what it is. Went round it once and twice, and now Dhammaruchi was tired, panting. That's how big it was. And in his head he's asking, why has the Buddha asked me to do this? What is the purpose? And so Dhammaruchi went to the Buddha and said, Venerable Sir, I don't know what it is. Can you please tell me? Dhammaruchi, this is a skeleton of a fish. Now Dhammaruchi jaw dropped. Never has he seen a fish this big. He could imagine this fish was massive. And so he asked, so there are fish as big as this? The Buddha replied saying, no, there are fish bigger than this in the ocean. This is what samsara is. But this is not any old skeleton. This is a skeleton of a whale called Timtimgal. And Dhammaruchi at that moment was confused. Should I know who Timtimgal is? The Buddha carried on saying, Dhammaruchi, this is your skeleton. Now Dhammaruchi was surprised. I was a whale called Timtimgala? And asked, was that really mine? My skeleton? The Buddha replied saying, yes, that's your skeleton. At that moment, Dhammaruchi fell onto his knees and worshipped the Buddha saying, Venerable Sir, I have been a fish. I have been a whale. He was shocked about samsara. Please, Venerable Sir, please help me escape from samsara. I don't want to be a whale ever again. And the Buddha replied and started preaching the Dharma. Started preaching about the anicca nature, the dukkha nature, the anatta nature. And he started to preach the pure Dharma. Soon, the Buddha finished preaching and left, leaving Dhammaruchi behind him. Dhammaruchi sat in front of the skeleton and started meditating on the words of the Buddha, of the Dharma, and in the evening, he became an arhat. Just before the end of the day, he became an arhat. After he became an arhat, he went back to the monastery. When he got back, he saw the Buddha addressing a gathering of monks, preaching the Dharma to them. But the Buddha, when he saw Dhammaruchi, fell silent. And Dhammaruchi entered the room, and the Buddha asked, Dhammaruchi, we meet after a long time. Dhammaruchi replied saying, yes, Venerable Sir, it has been a very long time. Now the monks listening to the sermon were so confused that they couldn't understand anything. They were thinking, Dhammaruchi ordained here. Dhammaruchi practiced the path here, went to the alms here. And as I remember, Dhammaruchi and the Buddha went to the sea together. And now they say, it's been a long time. They may have met after a long time. How is that possible? And so all these monks went to the Buddha and told the Buddha, Venerable Sir, we don't understand. How have you just met after a long time when just about a few hours ago you were with Dhammaruchi at the seaside? What do you guys think? What do you think? Why do you think the Buddha said such words? Why do you think the Buddha said, it's after a long time we meet Dhammaruchi? Well, it looks like you're going to find out next week. So this is half of the story of the Venerable Dhammaruchi. The whale. He had a whale of an appetite. But remember how powerful his merits were. He became an arhat. His previous life he was a whale, and the next life he becomes an arhat. You need merits to attain Nibbana. You need to find a lot of merit. So the question is, do you think you're doing enough? See, it's only when your perfections have filled completely that you'll be able to become an arhat. Not to the extreme level like the Buddha, but to a level enough to become an arhat. I want to add one more point before we conclude. Just one. Now, you probably give alms to the Buddha and the Mahasangha. And you probably, I don't know if you can, due to the pandemic, you probably go to temples and offer alms there to monks and nuns and anagarkas and agarikas, so to the bhikshu, bhikshunis, upasakas, upasakas. Think about it, right? The meal that you have given them, it's because of the meal that you had given them, the alms that you had given them, that they're able to take one more step, at least one tiny step towards a nibbana. Imagine hearing the Buddha say, "Sir, madam, because of your alms, this monk, that monk will become an arhat today. Because of your alms." The power that your alms have, not alms, dana, alms, is immeasurable. Think about the merits, limitless. That monk escaped from samsara because of your alms, your dana. But no matter what, right? The alms you give to these monks is helping them take the next step to nibbana. Because you can only climb up a mountain one step at a time. So because of your alms, monks are able to take one more extra step. Think about the amount of merits you could accumulate. Sadhs, all because of your alms. And also, I want to also add, right? Dhammaruchi became an arhat. Do you think his hunger disappeared? The moment he became an arhat, do you think his hunger disappeared? No. The answer to your question is no, it didn't. Now think about how many people would have said something about his hunger after he became an arhat. And he's saying, "Oh, that monk is greedy. Like he had eaten one plate of food, now he's one bowl of food, now he's eating some more." And say, "Oh, that monk's greedy." Think about what you're saying. Think about to who are you saying that to. You see, hunger is an illness of the body. You can't judge if someone's greedy by the amount they eat. Because if someone has a high metabolism, that means the things that they eat quickly goes through their body. They need more food more often. And just because someone eats just a handful of rice doesn't mean that they're virtuous. It doesn't. Because virtue is not something that is bodily. Virtue is something that's in the mind itself. So don't judge a book by how much it eats. No. Don't judge a book by its cover. Okay. So that was the story of the Venerable Dhammaruchi. Well, half the story. So after a long time, they've met the Buddha and Dhammaruchi. Why? Well, you'll find out next week. Okay? Right. Let's take a few moments to transfer merits and conclude. Let's take a moment to transfer the merits we've all acquired by making offerings to the infinite virtues of Noble Triple Gem, chanting Pirith, listening to the Dharma, and engaging in various meritorious deeds today. First and foremost, let us remind ourselves how incredibly fortunate we are to be in receipt of Lord Buddha's teachings. And with immense gratitude, let's transfer the merits to the Bhikshu, Bhikshunis, Upasakas, Upasakas, who since time immemorial have protected and preserved the sublime teaching of the Buddha, and passed down to the generation of the noble lineage in the form of the Tripitaka, which is thankfully available to us today to study, to understand, to comprehend the Dharma. Let's all take a moment to transfer merits we've all acquired to all the members of the Mahasangha present throughout the world, including the chief prelates of all the chapters, who have dedicated their lives to the noble path, have committed themselves to the betterment of all sentient beings. Let's not forget that among them will be the monks and nuns residing in local temples and nunneries, who have always been by your side through thick and thin, come rain or shine. Let's all take a moment to transfer merits to Guru Swamin Wansa and all the monks resident in the monastery, as well as the Anagarikas and Anagarikas attached to the monastery. Let's all take a moment to transfer merits and express our gratitude to all those who made great efforts to disseminate the teachings of the Buddha, be that by translating these sermons, sharing them out with others, and inviting others to join them. May through the power of these merits, if any have been born in the willful plane, may they redeem themselves and be born in the blissful plane. May through the power of the merits, may they abstain from the meritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble effort path into his supremest nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's all take a moment to transfer merits to our devotees, friends of the monastery, who for sake of merits, continue to sustain the Mahasangha. This includes every one of you who've contributed to the construction of the monastery, to those of you who provide the Mahasangha with shelter, alms, robes, medicine, as well as those who pass in their know-hows, extend their well wishes. May the power of these merits, may they abstain from non-meritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble effort path, and attain the supreme bliss Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also take a moment to transfer merits to our mothers, fathers, husbands, wives, brothers, sisters, sons, daughters, grandparents, uncles, aunts, cousins, nephews, nieces, elders, friends and acquaintances, employers, employees, and all those who've helped us, supported, assisted us in any way, shape, or form. May by the power of these merits, may they be healed in any physical, mental ailments, may they overcome any obstacles in their spiritual progress, may they abstain from non-meritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble way forward path, and attain supreme Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also take a moment to transfer merits to Devas, Brahmins, spirits, demons, prior the Sakradeva, as well as numerous gods and deities, who are committed to protect and fulfill the Sambhava Sasana, and let us also take a moment to transfer merits to our guardian deities, who keep a watchful eye over us and keep us out of harm's way. May through the power of these merits, may they prosper in divine power and wisdom, may they abstain from non-meritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble way forward path, and attain supreme Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's all take a moment to transfer merits to our ancestors who predeceased us, to all those who have been friends, families, acquaintances in this infinitely long journey samsara, and to all those who have helped us, support, assist us in the way they could. Let's take a moment to transfer the merits. Let's all take a moment to transfer the merits to all the members of the armed forces, as well as police force, who have sacrificed their lives to protect the peace and harmony of our nation. May all those who lost their life in war, be their friend or foe, rejoicing in the merits we required today. Let's also take a moment to transfer merits to all those who lost their life in natural calamities such as tsunamis, earthquakes, landslides, pandemics, reminding ourselves that among them will be those who have been friends, family to us in the long journey samsara. Let's also take a moment to transfer merits to them. May the power of the merits, may, if any of them have been born on the upper plane, may they redeem themselves and be born on the blessed plane. May they abstain from non-meritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble foot path, and the supreme Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Finally, let's all resolve, may the power and blessing of all the merits required throughout the day, we wait and witness the event of many hundreds of thousands of arhats on this blessed land. And finally, may the power of all the merits required today, you and I, and everyone who made the program a success, become an Arhat Vanse or Arhat Mahin Vanse in this very life, in the era of the Gautama Supreme Buddha itself. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. May the blessings of the Noble Triple Gem be with you all. Okay. We'll now conclude there. The story of Dhammaruchi of Thero will be continued next week. May the Noble Triple Gem be with you all forever.